Hey man, really nice to have you on the show. Such an honor to
Hi,
have you,
Aakarsh.
Aakarsh Sharma. Hi.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure and honor. Thank you for creating a platform like this and, giving us the chance to talk about our lives and our stories. I think that's a lot. You're doing really good what you
You're
do.
also doing very good. You're a published author.
Yeah, it's one thing to write, and I think it's similar also to do what you do. You're creating a space for conversations, for stories, for people to talk about their achievements. I think you're doing a really good job, and I love your content. Like, it's not just something that it has a lot of information, especially like very informative, diverse.
Thank you. Thank you. I like to return the favor, but I think it would be better if you introduce yourself.
I'm Avilasha, and I'm a published author of two fiction books. Yeah, so my first book is called When a Cuckoo Called, and my second book is called Morning, the Purest Feeling, and it's available on Amazon. Yeah, and it was published last year in 2021. And the book has also got me shortlisted for Best Author Fiction in the India Author Awards, which was organized by the Navi Mumbai Chambers of Business and
Oh,
Industries. Yeah.
could you tell a little about your book first? I'm sorry to interrupt your intro, but I like to
Yeah, no,
know.
that's fine. I think I was trying to get too wide and broad with my intro, but I just wanted to say that I'm a poet first, and
Yeah.
then I'm a fiction author.
Right.
So my book, yeah, my book, and I use I have a writer alter ego. It's called Storyteller Earthling, and I post a lot of my poetry there online. Yeah, we'll talk about it probably later. So my latest book, it's called Morning, the Purest Feeling. The reason being, I wanted my readers to feel the same way one feels in the morning. You know, uh, what I call it literal freshness, the aura of new beginnings. Like what happens when you wake up in the morning, you're filled with fresh energy. Like there is this possibility of a, brand new day, and like you leave behind your problems of the night and you start fresh. So this is something that governs the storyline, and also the way the book has been crafted, it's very like healing and very light. So I wanted my readers to feel that, because writing it for me was like that. It was very healing, very very fresh, and so like something like it helped me. So I felt like I wanted the readers also to feel that. So it's like a new beginning, and that you can start wherever you are. So that's the theme of the book, because my character, so it's a work of fiction. So it's a story about two people, a
Mm.
traveler who gets tired of travel itself, and another person who has a very settled life, you know and has everything sorted, money, career, like lives in a place she loves, but at the same time she's unhappy, she's looking for more, so she just wants to let go of everything and do something unexpected. And both these characters meet, so they have their own inner questions. The traveler is asking, like, I love to travel, so why am I, so disappointed, like why don't I like traveling anymore? And the other character is asking, like, you know uh, like do something unexpected, take risk, let go of the routine. So when these two characters are like meeting, they answer their own questions like via each other. So that answer has been realized in the meeting, in the journey, like of both characters. So it's basically it's very, self-aware. Self-awareness is a theme of the book. Like, you're asking questions, you're answering them. So this is something that, drawn from my own experiences. I love to travel, and I've traveled quite a few places solo. And
Right.
the book has been set in all the places that I've been to. So if there's Kerala mentioned in the book, it means I've been, like, it's based on my own experiences. And every little place like I've been to, that has inspired me, that has left some impression on me, has automatically found its way into the book, and into the, like, as a backdrop. So it's a very travel centric book. Like, you will travel with the characters, you will meet different places. It's not a very, like, okay, this is the city, not like that. It's very intimate. The details of, travel, the anecdotes are very intimate and drawn from my own experiences. And the questions asked by my characters are also drawn by my own experiences. Like these are questions that I had and I realized in the process of writing the book. So
What's
yeah.
beautiful about your theme is that you just do not confront the question of what should a person do when they get societal expectation. You also tackle the question of what should a person do when they achieve what they actually want to do. So this is a
Yeah.
very good theme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful you like that, because it's like often, what we are talking about is following your dreams. You're following your dreams. Now, my book explores what happens after you follow your dreams. Like you're already, doing what you love, but then what happens when you get tired of doing what you love? Like
right.
now what? You know? So yeah.
There was this very good quote from this show. I don't know if you have seen it, BoJack Horseman. It said that my wedding was my happiest day, but what about the day after that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Interesting.
right. So
Yeah.
this book, this creative process, can we talk a little about that? How did you come into the characters?
Sure. Um, See, as a writer, I feel like both my characters or all my characters, there are a lot of supporting cast as well, characters.
Hmm.
So it's in the end, it's my own reflection of my own emotions that I put as different people, and also the sometimes people that you have met that I've met that has left an impression on me, or certain experiences. So what happens is like what I look at it like as a writer, I am traveling through life, and when I am like a writer traveling through life, I'm all constantly drawing experiences, and these experiences find its way into my writing
Hmm.
automatically. So some of my characters may have been inspired by people that I'm not saying specific person. It's like different people, different characteristics of different people, different experience with different people that have come together to form a character. And like the main characters, the traveler who loves to travel and hates it, and the lady who wants to let go of her settled life for some uncertainty, are
Hmm.
in fact the two different sides of my own self that constantly you know are at war with each other. The part of me that wants to travel, loves to travel, and the other part of me that sometimes wants the settled existence, right?
Wow.
And sometimes the settled part of me like gets really like tired of the comfort zone and wants
Do
to
you think
explore.
everybody wants this has this kind of conflict?
I don't know. I think I feel like yeah, a lot of people do, and
Yeah,
hence I feel like this book is relatable to quite a few people
right,
who may feel like or may go through similar experiences. And although I mentioned travel, that travel is just what you call it is just a face of the problem. I think
right.
the struggle, it works differently for different people. I don't know about you, but could be that you may be going through similar that war with your two different sides,
Right.
and that is just symbolized by travel in my case. But I think
It could be
everybody
any passion.
whoever reads it, yeah, will draw their own conclusions.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
you said that this could be healing towards your readers, do you think that writing yourself and reading as readers, does it have a therapeutic effect?
Okay. I because the thing is, when I wrote it, like when you write a book, you write a first
Mm,
draft and then you keep reading it and you keep editing it, right? So I
mm,
have probably read my own book so many times that every time I literally like 50 times I would say, or something. But every time I read my book, I feel good. Then I go through my own contents, I feel good. So that means I'm talking of myself as a
mm.
reader. So I
Right.
feel like probably like what I can't understand, like what other people feel, that's I don't have control over that. But it's just my hope as a reader that yes, yeah, the person who reads it, the people who read it might have the therapeutic healing feeling I had while writing and reading the book.
Right. And
Yeah.
you published the book yourself. So could you,
Yes, that's one story. Like that's a lot of struggle. So
yeah, can you share your
I
struggle?
yeah. So I have opted for Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, where
Mm,
an author herself can put her book on Amazon, and it's exclusive to Amazon. But the catch is the book is available worldwide in both ebook and paperback format, but not in India. I mean, Amazon doesn't have a paperback option in India, so my book is only available as an ebook at the moment. But which automatically, makes me look like I'm looking for publishers, for example. But moment I get into the conversation and a publisher comes with their own set of, questions about royalty, like, ownership,
Mm.
licensing rights. I don't know, somewhere on the line, the author in me feels like it's something that is not right. Like, I want
Mm.
to own my work. I don't want other
Right.
people, like, I'm not saying I appreciate the publishing process. It's needed. Like, like so many factors are involved, right? There's publishing, there's distribution, there's printing and everything. And of course, that involves a lot of money. But when it comes to ownership, somewhere down the line, I feel like there's more we can do. So hence I'm exploring my options. I really want to own my work. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How hard was it to market and advertise that you have published a book?
Okay, so this is not my first book, this is my second book. So I faced the problem of marketing ever since my first book came out.
Mm.
And marketing is another level. Like, as an author, you write a book, it's way more easier to write a book than say get it, market it. Uh, for me, it's like, it's word of mouth, or
Mm.
like I'm doing a podcast with you. So it's something that I think as an author, when you're writing something you're really proud of, you automatically talk about your work, and you do whatever you can do, I think, to put it out there. But yes, marketing is very essential. You need professionals, and then you need the right people.
If a person has just written a book, would you suggest them
Yeah.
to go towards the route of going to a publisher or to publish the book themselves?
So see, the thing is, there are different types of publishers. Sorry, different types of authors. There are some people
Right.
who write and doesn't want to get involved in the publishing process. For them, it's better if you have a set process where you just give the responsibility to professionals, and that involves, that involves sharing a lot of like, it also involves a lot of compromise. But somewhere down the line, the author is fine with it. But if you are somebody who, I don't know, wants to own your work, wants a little of exclusive. So I'm talking about exclusive rights in terms of distribution and,
Mm.
you know, licensing and owning stuff, not just your book, but also the marketing process. You want to be involved, like, have a say in every little thing. Like, because ultimately, what for me, like, if somebody, see, as a book, as an author, if I have to be the voice of my book, like,
Mm.
I know my story very well. Like, I have written the book, there's a theme behind the book. I cannot expect a third person to understand what my book is about. So if there's somebody talking about my book, it has to be me, and I should be the spokesperson. And when I'm saying talking about the book in terms of marketing, it's not just me doing a podcast. It's also everything from a social media copy
Right.
to, say, interacting with distributors, like, because ultimately, what is the message I'm giving out? So if there are people who wants to get involved, like, wants to be the voice of your product, right? So then, you, I think, getting involved in the publishing process is necessary, and trying to find a customized option for yourself.
Mm.
Like, today we live in 2022. There are so many tools available online, right? And there are so many people that, like, because of the internet, we can connect to anybody from anywhere, from different parts of the world, right?
Mm.
So if you can put your time, if you have a time and you want to make an effort, like, you want to be the voice of your own product. So ultimately, what I feel like, even as an author, you are also an entrepreneur, because you have created a product. So if you look at it from that point of view, an entrepreneur is somebody who gets into the process, hustles for their product,
Right.
right? So if you're giving a responsibility to somebody else and you are fine with it, that's fine. A lot of opportunities, and that's respected. But if somebody wants to be there, like, wants to be the face, wants to get involved in the process, you have to be also an entrepreneur for your product and get involved. Like, I feel like looking for a customized route to how to make your book the way you want it to be, because of social media, because of technology. I mean, you can create your own website like in a day. So when these tools are available, like I recently saw a LinkedIn post where somebody said that, if you have a phone, you can create and run a startup, and the person listed a series of apps that a person can use to create a startup and run the startup. And yes, it's not something new. It's like you have so many like so much technology, so many apps for every little thing, like you can Google. So if you have a time and the effort, I think it's my advice that if you can create a customized route for yourself, that's, I think, more preferable, and it also helps a lot more other people. Like I have created a global poetry community. It's called Poetry Earthlings, and it's focused on nature poetry. And the reason I mention this is because I connect with a lot of poets from all over the world daily. And every poet wants to get published. Every poet wants has a book. And everybody faces, there are these problems of publishing a lot of people face. Some people are like, I don't know how the process works. I am very skeptical. Or somebody else like, I want to own my work because I am the voice of, like I said, I am the voice of
Mm.
my product. And these questions, like these problems persist if the publishing, what you call it, issue, like the route had been like smooth, or the problem had been solved, it would have not existed. Like we're talking about it, I face a problem as an author. I have people who constantly are not comfortable with what they have. Like my previous book, I went to the, it was almost a traditional route. It was a little different from a traditional route, but almost a traditional route, where I entrusted responsibility of my book to a publisher. But ultimately, I felt like I could have done more, and which is why, when I wrote my second book, I was very clear. I am not just going to give it to somebody and just sit back and be okay with it, because I have a lot more to say, and I'm working on a few more books, and I know for sure that I'm going to write more because I love writing for myself. And if I am going to do that, and I'm working with fellow poets who are looking for, say, who wants to get their books out there and own their work, I think ultimately it feels like there's a problem that needs to be solved, and if we can come up with a solution, it works for everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Do you think publishers can interfere with the creative control of the author?
Creative control of the author. I
Yeah.
mean, see, every publishing house has their own agreements and own. I don't know; these are confidential things. I have no idea how a publishing house works. So,
Right.
what I'm just talking about my own experiences. Like when I say other people are facing a problem in terms, it's not about the publisher. It's just a system is such that probably we need a different route. Some of us. I'm not saying everybody needs it. That's it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, person who wants to publish their own book should be willing to hustle a lot.
See, this is a very tricky question. I'm not saying everybody would want to hustle. There are a lot of people who write. There's so many
Mm.
authors. Because of my recently, when I said I was shortlisted for an author award, I had the opportunity to connect with fellow authors as well from different parts of the country. Now, everybody has a different approach. All are authors. Not every being an author is not a full time job. A lot of people have their own. They work different fields and they write a book on different topics. See, somebody is working in cybersecurity and wrote a book related to cybersecurity. That person will not want to hustle probably, because he would rather want a set of professionals to take care of his book, and that's legit. Like every author, whatever genre you are, will have different needs. So if you're like me, like for me, like being an author is a way of life. Like I write not because I want, for making a point. I write for myself. Writing is breathing for me. Like I write every day, and I wrote my book because it's not like I wanted to write a book because I wanted to get published. I remember it was 2020,
Mm.
and I just sat with my laptop, like during the pandemic when we had to stay at home, and I just started writing, and the book happened. So, like for people like who I'm sure whoever gets it will get it. Like if you are like me and you want to do more than just, you know, like you have lot more to say and wants to get involved in the entire process, not comfortable with the current route, then probably look for a customized approach for your own sake. Like, because we live in a world right now where a lot of opportunities are available, a lot of technology. Like, if you can, you would understand what I'm trying to say. Like, there are tools, and if you want to, and if you feel inspired from within to do something about it, then you must, instead of giving in to what is. I mean, if you can create. That's what I said. Yeah.
Do you think the rise of
Then
internet
I'll give
has?
an example.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
sure,
give an
sure,
example.
sure.
You do podcast, right?
Yeah,
And I'm sure when you started, there was a lot of literature out there. You must have felt discouraged somewhere down the line how the podcast
agreed.
process might be for you, but you customized it, and
Yeah.
you're doing whatever you can, and I'm sure you will continue to do that. And I think as a creator, that's what you want: creative freedom,
Mm.
not just in terms of just your content, but even marketing, even distribution. Like, you also would want to be involved. Like, you don't want initially you would not be comfortable giving the responsibility to somebody else completely who doesn't
You won't.
understand
You
your
won't.
work, the soul of your work, right? So it's for people like you and me. And there are people who create podcasts and are very comfortable with, say, some third party, marketing it or distributing it. But that's because everybody's needs are different. Everybody has different requirements. If somebody is doing a podcast for, say, a different, they work for somebody who their job is to do a podcast for a third party, then that person will not be involved in the distribution marketing of the podcast, right? That person would be just interviewing people, and their
You
job
know,
ends right
I
there. Yeah.
I initially thought of collaborating with someone for the podcast, but my creative control was so restricted that I could not choose my own cover art. I could not choose the topics I wanted to ask, and that really restricted my flow. And I think that really interferes with an artist's ability to express themselves.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that the rise of internet has broken the monopoly that publishers used to have? That you had to go to a traditional publishing house to publish a book. Now you can just post it on Amazon or your blog.
Yeah, I think not just the publishing industry. I'm sure every industry, whether it's music, whether it's
Yeah,
even podcast, there's a lot of, like I said, opportunity. And if you know how to, if you feel inspired to, create your own way, you can. It just takes a little longer, but ultimately the returns are good if that's
mm,
what you're looking for.
mm.
Yeah.
Like you said that you had to write 50 times for one book.
No,
What?
no. That's not that I wrote my book just once, but I read it 50 times.
50 times.
Like,
Yeah,
read the book.
right.
Yeah.
So could you guide the audience to the creative process that you as an author go through for writing a book?
Okay. Creative process. Okay, so the creative process I feel is very different again for different people.
Mm.
I'll just share mine.
Right.
So for me, it's like I think in a previous conversation I had mentioned to you when you initially asked about my book, I said that I had the feeling of how the story would feel like, since for a long time. So, like, when I wrote my book, it was 2020, and
Mm.
I had the thought of the story, say, from 2016 or something. Okay, and I knew that this was a story. The story was in my head. Like I said, I'm a writer who's traveling through life, so I'm constantly inspired, influenced. It hits me like without even realizing it. Things that happen, and I had the thought of the story in my head for a long time. Somewhere down the line, probably I did not have the time, or I did not, the right time was not there to write, to sit and write about it. And I tried to find that story in different books, in other people's work, but something was missing. And I remember talking about this to a lot more other people. I said that I was looking for that story in different people, other people's works, but it just didn't happen. And I knew I had to write it. So with the pandemic and staying at home, I think it was a perfect time. I mean, I had the time and the space, and I just started putting, I would not say pen to paper, laptop, right? I started
Mhm.
sitting on my laptop, and I remember putting down the story skeleton, like how, the brief overview of how I want it to be. The, like, chapter one should contain this, chapter two could be this. And I started. So there's a certain process we follow. We put down the story skeleton, and then when you have a theme, so basically the first chapter's theme, what could be. When I started writing it, it just flowed. Like I said, the whole book is about asking questions and finding answers. It's not like question answer format, but I meant metaphorically, where in the sense, say for example, I started writing the first chapter. You know, just giving an insight, the first chapter is set in Udaipur. My main character is in Udaipur, for example. And it was again like my own, like I was traveling solo, in Udaipur, and that memories were there, and that found its way into the plot. Okay, and because I'm a female, I wanted my lead character to be male. That's just my way of expression. I wanted a look at it from a very different point of view, and then it's just like, okay, you write the first chapter, then you're thinking what should be there in the next chapter. You have a theme in your mind, but what it could be, the female characters introduced, the female lead. Then just things just have it just flowed. And I felt like I was watching a lot of more, say, other people's works, reading somebody else's book or watching a movie. These things also inspire you. I'm not saying that not in terms of ideas, but somewhere on they leave an impact, how they make you feel, and that feeling finds its way into your words. Your words are your own, the story is your own, the writing is your own. But how a book, or how, for example, if you're watching a movie and a movie sometimes leaves an impact on you, like it stays with you even after you watched it. And that feeling is what, as an artist, you're trying to capture in your own work. And that's how morning happened. And I felt like it was there in me. So sometimes like to refer to as like a vomit sort of a thing, like it was inside me, and when it found time and the space and the paper, it just flowed, you know. Yeah. And then that's the first draft. Okay, and then when you write the first draft is a very basic draft, and then you keep like reading the story and keep improving. Okay, this part could be a little different. You keep editing it, and the final draft is like proofreading, like you're checking for grammar and stuff. And like, so a book, you can't just leave a book in the first draft. You have to keep reading it and improving it till you as a reader feel satisfied. Okay, this is what I want to read. So for this, just true for every work, like even for a video, like you first shoot it and then you want to edit it and then you want to put music in it. Like, then it becomes like a proper, okay, this is what I want. I'm satisfied with the work now. I want to share with the rest of the world. So yeah, that's how it works.
It's
And
so
also it doesn't end there. Like
yeah,
after you've written the book, um, I hope I'm audible. After written the book,
yeah, yeah,
um, then you have to be involved, like you said, in the marketing process. So my author journey in
yeah.
as regard to morning is still, and like it's still happening. It's not over yet. Sometimes I feel like it's just a beginning. Like I said, writing a book is way easier than marketing it
Marketing it,
and putting
yes.
it out there. Yeah, exactly. So
With so many books under the sun, how difficult is it to come up with original content?
oh, that's an interesting question. You're
Like,
right. There are a lot of books, not just books, content, even movies, podcasts,
like,
you name it. But how do you come up with something original? uh, it might sound corny, but you create for yourself. You write what you want to read. You write what you feel inspired to write. For me, it's like I wrote whatever came to me, and I was not concerned about what the second person would think or whatever. It was a work of art happening on its own. Like like you write a poem, and a poem happens to you. Like you don't care about whether this thing exists. It's something that you feel inspired to create from within. Like I can't explain. It's a creative force that just comes out of you, and that gives you joy. The process of creating. Like I don't know about you, but I'm sure when you reach out to people and you talk to them, and you ask those questions, these are something you're feeling inspired from within to create. Ask. You're not following a set pattern. You're not like every person's story is different, but you want to listen and you want to ask. So it's something that you're doing it for yourself, right? Ultimately. So similarly, the book creation process, or whether it's poetry, you just ultimately do it for yourself, and somewhere down the line, it hope that it connects. Yeah, and Like, I also feel like adding this part. There are so many books under the sun, but then why do only certain books or certain movies stick with you? I'm not talking about mainstream stuff. Like, sometimes you read a book and it just feels like, wow, I love this book. Or you're watching a movie and you feel like, okay, this is like, I love this movie for no reason. Or a musician, like, for example, I don't know if I want to disclose this, but we are both fans of Eminem, right? And there's a reason why we both like Eminem. I mean, like no, he doesn't know us or doesn't care about us, but we still love his music, right? It just happens. You can't really explain it. So why do you think when there are so many musicians, there's one musician which affects us so much? It's just that because ultimately everybody creates for themselves, and when you do that, and whoever, you can't control who likes what. Ultimately it's something that you do it for yourself and you let it be and hope that it works out sometimes. Yeah.
So how were you
and
able
and
to?
also there were like certain,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm
right?
saying that even as a author,
Yeah.
even when I'm as an author, even I'm influenced by other people's books. So Morning was influenced a lot by Eat Pray Love, which is by
Mm.
Elizabeth Gilbert. It's a book of non-fiction, but I don't know, the feeling, because it's a very travel-centric book, was it inspired me as a reader, and somewhere down the line probably inspired Morning. So yeah.
I read this wonderful book. It's called Still Like an Artist. It says that you to make good content, you have to get inspired by other people's content. Only then you can write something that is truly beautiful. It's like a remix, right? So, did you have any formal training aside from CBSE English education to learn how to write a book?
Okay, no, I mean, like I said, as a creator, I've always been inspired from within to create. I always wanted to write. And I think I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that I've been writing since I was 9. And like when you start forming sentences together, like, you get sense of it, that was like you're 9, 10 or something years old. That's when I wrote my first poem, and the poem also like was about a dog who died. So it just, I think it was the situation that influenced me, like a death inspired me to create. So I have always been inspired to write. Like writing for me it's less of formal training but rather more of expression. Like I think there are certain people who are comfortable speaking, the good orators. For me, like writing is my go-to medium. Like writing is my, you know for medium expression, and I have just followed like one step after the other. So if I started writing professionally, say, like, properly as a poet, then I just followed like what next. Okay, probably I would try writing a book. So I started writing my first book when I was 16, and I just remember, like, again, like I knew I wanted to write a story. Like I had the story in my head. I started putting it there, and it took me 4 years to write that book, like, and get it published when I was like in college. And then, like, morning at the same time, it again, like how you write a book, for me it's like I know, and I just, the feeling is so strong. The story has to be out, like it's inside me, and I really want it to be out now. So that the inspiration keeps building up, and then you just write it, and you write it, the process feels so good. Like it's just really, I can't explain, right?
I feel like everyone is a writer. Even an uncle who sends you a good morning WhatsApp text is a writer in some way. But how you structure whenever you write properly in a theme, that's what distinguishes a good writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like when I was in college, one of my professors actually like asked me, like, because I was very young when I wrote my first book. She said, like, how did you do the whole flow, structure of a book? Like it's a lot. Like not just that you're writing, you're creating a book, and it involves everything, getting everything right. But ultimately, what I feel is it's my drive. Like something in me, it keeps driving me to the point that right now, as we speak, we just spoke about how as an author you have to be an entrepreneur. Like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's not my passion to be an entrepreneur or anything. My passion is to be a writer, to keep writing as much as I can. But the need for it, like, I want a life where I can keep writing what I love. So
Hmm.
it's driven me to create a system and a structure that enables me to do that, and probably even become an entrepreneur for the process, so that I can keep nurturing my love for writing.
Hmm. Do you think the cover of a book is a very important component of a book?
Yeah, I mean, the saying goes, right? Uh, don't judge a book by its cover, but we
But
do,
people do, yeah.
right?
You
I'm
see
saying,
someone.
when you meet people also, like, you
Hmm.
first see them and then you want to, like, you talk to them next, like, it's
Hmm.
your first impression, right?
Right.
So yeah, so for me, like, again, like, I designed my own cover and I used Canva, like a basic tool, right? And the photo, if I I mean, we'll share my book probably later so that
Oh,
people can watch it. The cover of the book, the photo has been taken by me. It's a photo of a place called Vagaman in Kerala where I was traveling solo. And the reason why I put that photo in the cover is because that place and that moment finds its mention in the book. Like, that the photo in the cover has a is referred to later in the book.
and coming up with a title, how important is
Okay, so the title again, like I explained earlier, morning. So there are
it?
multiple reasons why I wanted to call it morning. I mean, as an author, when you're writing a book, you have not just one title in mind, like, you really brainstorm on a title. Like,
Hmm.
similarly, the title of a book has to be everything that the book is about, like the first impression. So the reason why I called it morning is because I remember when I was writing this book, I would wake up at I'm not an early riser or anything, but I would wake up at 4 in the morning and I couldn't sleep. And because I couldn't sleep, I would write my book.
You wanted this
So I
podcast to
wrote,
be done at 11 a.m. How can you say you're not an early riser?
but it's not 4 a.m. I wrote my book at 4 a.m. in the morning before even
Right,
it was dawn. You get my
right.
point? So I used to write by, like, a lot of my chapters were written like very early in the morning, and I would watch dawn and dawn, from that how morning happens. Like, I would literally sit. I was living in my own place in Gurgaon, and I
Hmm.
would literally see through the windows that morning is happening. You get my
Hmm.
point, right? So
Right.
that every day, watching morning happen and you are in that creative mindset, it somewhere left an impact. I mean, I'm all watching morning happen. So it had to somewhere find its way, and it found its way to the title. And, like, in the book's end, like in the epilogue, I still explain why it's called morning. So what, for me, morning is also about awakening. Like, it's night and then you wake up. Like, it's a very metaphorical, spiritual term. Awakening, wake up in the morning. So my characters had their night. They were really unhappy in their current life situation, and then they found their answers. So, and then they had their own awakenings. So they had their mornings, like they woke up, right?
As a writer, do you think that there is a decline of paperback forms of book and rise in digital editions?
Not really. Like, a lot of people still, that's just my experience, because when I speak about my book and I say, you know what, it's available on Kindle, it's an ebook, a lot of people are like, I would rather read the hard copy. So that's
Why
just
do you think
something
that is
I
the
have
case?
experienced. Sorry?
Why do you think that is the case when it is more convenient?
I know. So I think probably it's on us to change that. And I'm sure, like, as a reader myself, I mean, I have been reading a lot of books on Kindle. So I didn't feel any difference, because ultimately you are more concerned about the content. But so, yeah, I guess, like, it's just that old school way of thinking that a book has to be like a proper book. But again, like, yes, there has been, like, if you look at it in terms of numbers, probably a lot of people have started reading ebooks and books on Kindle. So yeah.
So you also have a poetry page, right?
Yeah. So it's called Storyteller Earthling,
Hmm.
and that's my writer alter ego, because Earthling is a term that I really connect with.
Why did you choose
Um,
an alter ego?
because see, I initially called it storyteller gypsy. I was not comfortable putting myself out there. Like I had apprehension sharing my poetry online somewhere. You know, a lot of poets do face that. But then eventually, while I started writing, I felt more comfortable. Now that I'm doing a podcast talking about it, it's a huge step from where I started. And I started this page in 2020. So yeah, it's been 2 years, I guess, a year. And so Earthling, because like I feel that's my philosophy that we are all in this earth briefly. The earth is like going to be there. We humans, come in briefly and then we are here. So I would like to look at this life itself as a trip, like I am a traveler on a trip. And when I'm traveling, say for example, when anybody is traveling, we're always like looking at the good. Like when we travel to a new place, we're looking at the tourist attractions or what good the place has to offer. We're always in appreciation, having a good time on vacation. If if I use that analogy and talk it in terms of being an earthling, that's our purpose to live in the end. That what good the earth has to offer, make the best of this life and enjoy and have like appreciate nature. So a lot of when I say earth, for me it's more synonymous with nature. I draw a lot of inspiration from nature and like nature itself. Like when I'm observing nature, I end up writing poetry inspired by it. So as an earthling who is traveling on earth, like I am literally visiting a planet which is rich in biodiversity and nature. And how am I and appreciating via poetry. So storyteller earthling, like I'm telling stories. I'm a storyteller who is a visitor on this planet, and I'm telling stories inspired by my trip. And so while I was, because I write mainly about nature and nature is my main muse, I also found a lot of like-minded people who write poetry about nature from different parts of the world, and that's why I was inspired to create, another what do you call it, a
Platform.
platform rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is called Poetry Earthlings, where we all of us we write poetry inspired by nature and we appreciate. Like it's a platform where we appreciate the planet and poetry, or say nature via poetry. So it's more like while we're appreciating, poetry and appreciating nature via poetry, we're also raising awareness because we all know that there's a lot of there are problems that the earth is facing. Like 22nd April is Earth Day, and the reason why it's celebrated is to create awareness about the fact that yeah, the earth is suffering. There's global warming. The IPCC climate report does state that there's a rise in temperatures which the impact of which is already felt, and there's declining natural cover, extinction of animals. These things, like we humans have started, we have started creating problems for other species, and the least we can do is appreciate and talk about and raise awareness so that we stop certain activities, like we have more sustainable living, sustainable, business, or clean energy. So these are certain things that we need to change as a human race. And the more we talk about it and raise awareness, like we are making an impact. Least we can do. So yeah, so I think for me, like as an earthling, also I have a responsibility to the planet. You're here just briefly, so treat it with respect and care. Like yeah, so just not just appreciation but also responsibility. That's what earthlings is about.
Your background is of birds chirping, and people actually pay to have such an alarm, or actually have that experience. But when they are actually in nature, they tend to destroy it.
True.
Right?
Yeah, there are a
And,
lot of
yeah.
sparrows.
Do you have any tips for aspiring writers?
Tips. If writing is your passion and you love writing, do it. I mean, when you are
Mhm.
going through life and the world is telling you what is right, what is wrong, like don't listen to that. And if you really feel passionate about something, that means it's very good, like to have a passion, and it's a rare gift. So I'm sure, like when you're a writer, when you love writing, just write. That's the first step. And let writing be your anchor basically. Like For example, for me, what I feel as a writer is that, like, when I say writing is like healing for me, like, I find a lot of self confidence via writing as well. So, if you are a writer and you write to write, you will realize that, whatever doubts you have, it dissolves when you start writing. And you just use your passion to basically be your, like, you know, backbone or something.
One last question I would like to ask you: how do you come up with the psychology of your characters?
Okay, that's an interesting question because
Like,
even I didn't think about it before you asked me. But again, like I said in the previously as well, these characters are mostly my own emotions. Like if there's a part of me which likes to travel, that's the traveling character, the traveler, the character who loves to travel. And the
hmm,
other part of me who wants to, be a more secure and settled, that's the other character who thinks that way. So, or the subplots or the sub characters that I have. So the psychology of a character is again inspired by my own experiences, my own thought processes, and the certain people that leave an impact on you. Like sometimes, you meet people and you don't realize they answer questions that you like had. You like you meet somebody and they impact you in such a way that you realize, okay, this was something I wanted to learn probably about a person, you know, and that found its way into my character. So if my character Ekansh is the main character, is the lead character, and he's asking certain questions, sometimes also people I have been with probably, or have were impacted by, I have say probably I've observed them, and sometimes you feel like when you're looking from a third person's perspective, there are certain things that you register which the other person does not. Probably you found the other person asking certain questions which they themselves have not realized, but you have realized probably, and because you are asking the same questions. Like I said, ultimately as a author, you again, it's your own story, although you may be giving different names,
yeah,
different gender, different characters, different character traits. Ultimately it's your own story, your own experiences, and like I said, the people who have left an impact on you, so or how you were impacted by the other person. Like if somebody did just behave a certain way, or somebody said certain things and it affects you in a good or a bad way, these things find its way into the character. Or again, like my travel is a subplot. Like I said, the places I've been to have influenced me. So more than, or apart from people also, the place also affects you. I think one of your old podcast guest talked about the psychology of travel, right?
yeah.
And I related to that. That person mentioned that when you're traveling, your self awareness rises. And I completely subscribe to that. That's exactly what morning is about at the end. Like all the
Subscribe
places
to the
I've been
channel
to.
as well.
Yeah, the places I've been to, the mountains, the sea, the cities that I mentioned,
Hmm.
or the Northeast. Like these are places that I grew up in probably, or places I've traveled to and have left an impact on me, like increase my self-awareness, and that has also found, like, impacted my concept, my storytelling, my characters. Like this place, like you will see if you read the book, even the place becomes very personified, like it's a sub character.
Thank you, Avilasha, for giving your valuable time.
It was a pleasure. like
Thank
like
you.
I again said, thank you for creating a platform and following your passion ultimately, and creating some such an interesting place to talk about things so openly and diversely. Like all thanks to you.
Thank you, like-minded people who have the courage to take up their passion.
That's an honor. Thank you.